Well, I decided to put in a branch coming off the bottom of this bush. You see that often on young trees, especially foliage that's close to the river's edge or to the water's edge, has a bit of a rougher life, and I thought that would provide an um, interesting shape here. Uh, I've just drawn it in again with ultramarine blue and red sienna. Then I had this branch sticking up here, and it just kind of was off on its own territory. It wasn't doing much for the painting. Again, because it's a small painting, I want to confine the strength to this area, really down to here. I don't want too much distraction elsewhere. So I removed that branch, and what was behind that branch was fairly high value yellows as well around it. So I've toned that all down, gone to lower values, similar hues but lower values. I think that's going to work just fine. This has to dry where I've drawn this branch in before I lay more paint in. Got to dry somewhat anyways. Then I need to put a few specks of higher chroma red in the odd spot. I think that'll be about it. So do you see what's happening now? I'm getting really persnickety. And I want to think, oh, I do this and I'll do that, and I'll add this and I'll add that, and I have to stop. But I couldn't stop. I had to put this little old stump in here. Because this line, this reinforced sort of triplicate of value and hue and line running down here, I needed to oppose it with something. So I put that little stump in there. I think it does the job. It's just it's a small painting, you know, and it's not. It's more steady-ish. Now is not the time to get too detailed. Anyway, well, I'm calling it finished now. I was really tempted to play in the water a little bit, but I think the water's fine. I did highlight this indexing line that I had in here. I used a little bit of yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, and white just to warm it up a little. Didn't want to get too strong with it because I didn't want to compete with any of this. I've sculpted this branch a little more neatly coming out here. It looked a bit like an alien, this bush. It still does if you use your imagination, but hey, in nature you can have all kinds of bushes that look like aliens. So I'm not going to fixate on it. I've used in this area burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and white, and obviously this more burnt sienna and white here, and then going into more ultramarine blue here. This stump is pretty much raw umber and varying degrees of white. Yeah, these little dark trunks too, they're pretty much raw umber. I may have added a hint of alizarin crimson to it. Then I put a few spots here and there just to pull interest, to make this more interesting. Not wanting to conflict with this, but I still thought I could use a little variety. So I've put in, using Cad Red Medium, straight Cad Red Medium, and in some smaller brush strokes, adding a hint of Cad Yellow Pale. And in place of Cad Yellow Pale, where I didn't want it quite as intense, I just used yellow ochre, in a few little spots. Not the highlights of the highlights, but, a little bit lighter areas. If I keep playing with this painting, I'll go insane. I'm happy with it. I'm just going to walk away now and call it complete. I quite like how it turned out. It's certainly improved from what I had. I think it hangs together better. A little better composition. I'll just take the camera off the tripod here and give you the quick little close-up tour. Okay, we'll zoom in here. Slowly learning how to do this more gradually. I guess when I zoom in like this, really I'm trying to show you some of the textures that are in there. You know, in some areas, sorry about the traffic. In some areas, this little panel has one layer of paint. In other areas, it's probably got 3 or 4. But I did not make the layers too thick in anticipation of possibly having to go over them. I won't really talk about colors. I think I've done that as I painted it. These rocks I might not have mentioned, but I have, again, you know, that sort of mother color that I often use, raw umber, cobalt blue, and titanium white. But I've gone to cobalt blue in some areas as my blue. In other areas, I've used ultramarine blue. I've added a little bit of alizarin crimson just to make a couple of spots more purple. I've gone more raw umber to make other spots browner. Just need a little bit of variety of color in those rocks. And down to the water here. As usual, it's a little messy when you get up close, but nobody looks at a painting from that distance. Certainly not an impressionistic painting. Okay, I am going to find... I'm not going to do anything really large, I don't think. I'm going to go to the store and look for a couple of mid-sized canvases. Okay, thanks for watching. That's that one done. On to the next.